Today, I'm going to talk about Saint Bernadette. Our Blessed Mother Mary appeared 18 times to Bernadette Soubirous in the village called Lourdes in France. Bernadette Soubirous was born on January 7, 1844. She was the first child of Francis Soubirous and Louise Soubirous. Her father was a miller who worked very hard for the family. At the time of her birth, her family was relatively prosperous. However, due to the series of misfortune, her family plunged into dire poverty. They were forced to live in a single room that was used to be a prison cell. The cell was too small and it was considered unsanitary even for the prisoners. Despite the poverty, everyone loved one another in their family. Bernadette was the eldest among the 7 children they had. From a very young age, she suffered severe illness, leaving her weak and asthmatic. Because of this, she couldn't attend school and she could hardly read or write. When she was 14, she was still studying the basic catechism with 7-year-old children. So that was the intellectual ignorance on the concepts of immaculate conception, which were soon to have a major impact on her life. On 11th February 1858, Bernadette went along with her sisters on a small cave or grotto where the carols often took shelter, and when they reached there, found some wood, and they saw a lot of wood, and for that they had to cross a stream. So they decided to go at the other side. Bernadette also wanted to go with them, so they said that they will first check if it's safe for her. But when they entered the stream, the water was very cold, so they said to her not to come. Bernadette really wanted to come with them in the collecting wood, but Bernadette was delicate because of her asthma, and moreover she was wearing stockings. She wanted to join her brother and sister. So she sat down to remove her stockings. While she was busy removing her stockings, the air around her started getting colder. Then she heard the sound of strong wind. She thought there was a storm coming, and she looked at the direction where the sound was coming from. But when she looked around, she found everything to be perfectly still, including the trees and plants. She turned her attention to her stockings again. This time, she was frightened, stood up. When she looked up at the grotto, she saw that the rose bushes beneath the grotto were tossing while the other plants stood still. Then she saw a brilliant light emitting from the open of the grotto, and then, to her amazement, there was a small figure in the opening, a lady of small stature with incomparable beauty. The figure was young and beautiful than she had ever seen, and it was clad in white from head to toe and girded with the blue scarf. The lady then inclined her hand graciously as if inviting Bernadette to approach. Bernadette, even though was frightened, but she didn't want to run away, as she was fascinated, and she felt a mysterious attraction towards the figure. The child fell on her knees and took out her rosary. She was about to begin saying Ave Maria when she found not make the sign of the cross. Every time she attempted to draw a cross, her arms fell as if they were powerless. It was not until the radiant figure who held the rosary in her hands had made the sign of the cross that the little girl was able to do the same. Bernadette started reciting Ave Maria on each bead. and the appreciation smiled in approval. The radiant figure disappeared. After Bernadette had finished reciting the 5 decades, but when her parents knew about it, they thought that she was imagining things. So they didn't let her go to the grotto. But Bernadette longed to go there, near the Roche. As she stood up at the gates and nursed her wish, praying to God, she pleaded to her mother to let her go, and the Mother Mary appeared 18 times in the grotto. Each day, she asked her to do something. The first wish on February 25th, 1858. That day, the beautiful lady asked Bernadette to drink the fountain and to bath in it. Bernadette was confused. There had never been a fountain in Nasavia or any kind of natural spring. Then she started to scratch the loose gravel of the ground around her. As she did, she noticed that the ground beneath her was moist. As she kept scratching, a little pool formed with bubbles rising from it. She cupped her hands together and drank from it. She washed her face using the water from the pool. The next day, the people gathered around the grotto. They were surprised to find a real stream where Bernadette had stood the previous day. It was March 24, 1858. By now in France, knew that this was the last of 15 days, that the lady had requested Bernadette. 20,000 people were presented at the grotto that day, including an entire military division in fully dressed uniform. As Bernadette approached the grotto, a path was cleared for her by the soldiers. But Mother Mary didn't give her a farewell, so she returned again on the Feast of Annunciation, and the appreciation revealed her identity to Bernadette. She said that she was the Immaculate Conception. The 18th appreciation took place on 6th July 1858. Several months had passed after these previous appreciations. Later, Bernadette joined the Order of Sisters of Charity. Throughout her life, she remained sickly, but attended patiently to her duties. She died a holy dead on April 16, 1879. She was 34 years old. Bernadette was buried on the convent ground in Navarre, France. Her body was exhumed 30 years later, on September 22, 1909. In the presence of 2 doctors, several appointed officials and nuns from the local convent, on September 22, 1909. In the presence of 2 doctors, several appointed officials and nuns from the local convent. When Bernadette's body was opened, there was no odor and her body was completely untouched by the law of nature. Thank you.